Alright, what we're going to be doing is creating a map and a map layout here. I brought in the shapefile here for the parcels. Excuse my sensitive mouse here. And we see in the layer windows here, this is the name of the shapefile here, export output 2. I have a file called mapping, which is my Excel file with all of the data that I've collected, and I have joined it to export output 2. Let me see, I want to be sure because we're going to be creating a scale bar. I want to be sure that I am looking at the correct projection. This is NAD 83, State Plane, North Carolina, FIPS 3,200 feet. Just want to be sure that I've got that. Click on OK. And so now, this is basically a two-step process. One step in the process is to create a thematic view right here, and either displaying the LBCS dimensions, activity, function, structure, etc., or a graduated map that looks at the value of each of the individual parcels. Okay, so the next step after doing that is once we have the view in this window that is to our liking, we are then going to open a composer window, and that composer window allows us to create the sort of layout and save the image from there. Alright, so in order to do a thematic map, we're going to be mapping the LBCS activity function, and in order to do that, I'm going to right click on my shapefile, and I'm going to open the properties menu. This is the same place that we did the joining, but the actual menu that I'm going to be looking at is the style menu right here. And this allows us to do any sort of thematic mapping that we may want. And we see that there are some options here. The two that we're going to be dealing with is the categorized or the graduated option. This is basically the data that we're mapping sort of determines which of these that we're using. So for example, if we were merely mapping the one-digit LBCS codes for the activity dimension, we would want to use categorized because there are very few numbers to be mapped out when you get down to it. We'll use the graduated method for creating the distribution of the value. That's more of a continuous variable. There are an inordinate number of unique values that it just doesn't make sense to make a legend on those individual values and treat them as categorized. Alright, so we'll select categorized, and then we select the column or the field that we are going to map, right, that variable, and it's going to be the activity function. And then what I'm going to do here is click on classify. And when I click classify, this window right here gets populated, and I've got that one blank parcel. I'm going to uncheck this category right here and sort of remove that from any sort of consideration. Maybe able to find out where that rascal is. But anyways, what this window has, this is the color that the individual values will be applied to on a parcel by parcel basis. And the legend here, this is the legend or a description that we would be typing in for category 1. Alright, one of the things that we want to be mindful of is that there's a standardized way of mapping each of the dimensions. This is the sheet that's in that PDF file for the activity dimension. I'm sure everybody has seen this. Right, the next page, different codes for function, different colors for ownership, different color for site. So what we're doing here is, since we are dealing with the activity dimension, I want to pay attention to how to create a yellow and control for the one-digit code being yellow, the 2 being red, the 3 being purple, and so on. Right now, this sort of distribution randomly of colors just doesn't match what should be the standardized color there. And we also have the description of the first digit of the activity dimension right here. And we're going to use this information to be more descriptive for our readers in this instance. All right, so the way that I change the color of the symbol, if this sheet is telling me, right, this sheet right here is telling me that the digit 1, residential activities, needs to be yellow, I want to pay attention to, excuse me here, this number right here that has RGB. What RGB is an acronym for is red, green, blue. And what we see in the parentheses here is the relative mixture of red, green, and blue. So if we set red to 255, set green to 255, set blue to 0, what we end up with is yellow. Okay, so for all of these different mixtures, right, I need to edit the symbol color to reflect the fact that 1 needs to be yellow, 2 needs to be red, 3 needs to be purple, and so on. So the way that we go about doing this, and instead of doing all of them, we will do 2 of them by example, and then I'm going to pause, fill the rest of this out, and then start the video back up again. So what we do to edit the color, right, I double click on that color patch, and we see right here the color. It allows us to edit the color. What we want to do after pulling down this menu is select choose color. Okay, and so if I look at my document, the RGB value for yellow is 255, 255, 0. Okay, to play around with that here, I have an HTML notation right here. I want RGB, right? It was set at RGB right here. And then I see the R, the G, and the B, and I have an area where I'm able to edit the values. So R 255, G 255, B 0. So I just sort of take this, 255, 255, 0, and then I hit enter, and as you see here, it pops up. It is yellow. Right? So I click OK. The next color, right, for value 2, I'm going to double click on that. Pull down the color menu, choose color. I see that red has a code of 255.00. Okay, that being the case, 255.00, enter, and I have red. Okay, likewise, if we want to keep the value the same, but what I want to do is I want to edit the legend. This is telling me that yellow 1000 is residential activities. So I double click and I'll just type in residential. Okay. Number 2, shopping, business, or trade. And just to keep things a little bit concise, we'll do this shopping/trade. Right, hit enter. All right, so the legend is actually descriptive for the values that we have here. All right, what I am going to do is I am going to pause. I am going to fill out the rest of this right here, and then I'll restart with a full legend right here. All right, I am back, and as you can see, I edited all of these values right here. We see the distribution, new distribution of colors that match the LBCS codes. And we see these values remain the same, but this legend here translates what each individual value is. You'll note that in the legend, what I did was basically summarize the description that exists in the LBCS manual merely for the sake of just space, but I don't think I'm really missing anything important here in terms of what this legend is. All right, so once I have that, right, it's categorized data, mapping activity, change, blah, 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 and I'm going to hit OK. All right, so what I have here is the distribution of the proper standardized LBCS colors. So what we have here is well, everything that we need to create a map. Right, so in order to create the map, one of the things that we need to do is to open the composer. So within this window right here, or these menu items, I pull down the project menu, and what I want to do is open a new print composer. I click on that. I want to place a name. I'll call this activity. Click on OK, and here's what I get. Right, in terms of this composer window, this is the palette that we basically put elements on, arrange them, add new information, and create that map. The first thing that we want to do is to include our map. Okay, and the button that we use to add the map is this right here. What this in fact does is sort of reflects whatever is on display in the editing window right here. Okay, so I click on this, and what I do is just I'm going to do a little bit of a swipe right here. And what happens periodically, sorry about that, what happens periodically here is that there's a little bit of an overshoot, and I might want to just sort of correct things in this manner, kind of adjust the size of the window. You'll notice that that the blocks sort of follow this expansion here, you know, where it's kind of stuck. But one of the things that we can do is we can actually move an object within a window. Right, just to sort of let you know about some of these buttons right here. This hand button right here is a panner. This select move item, what we see here is the square extent of this item right here. And so if I click on this menu item, I can move the item, right? Haha. And as you'll notice, one of the problems that I'm having is actually sort of no way of moving these blocks within this item. In fact, I can do that. The button just below Move or Select Item is to move an item's content. That's this button right here. So once I select that, I can grab onto this and move it within the window, trying to get it so it doesn't like snap to any of the borders. I've got that, and I feel good. Alright, so what I want to do then, once I've done that, is kind of move this around to an area where I'm going to be allowed to have some sort of a legend in this area, and then enough space on top for a title. Okay, so that looks good. It's, you know, as good a place as any. So with that, let me see, the next thing that I would like to do is to include a legend. As it happens, this is my legend button right here. I click on this, and I sort of swipe what I would like, where I would like the legend to be, and just sort of click on this. Alright, so we see the legend, and we see the different values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Not quite sure what that is doing there. I thought I kept that from displaying. But anyways, we'll just work with this. You'll see the legend items right here. This allows us to do a little bit of editing with respect to that. Doesn't allow me to edit it. Oh well. We'll just leave it like it as it is. Right, so click outside of it. That's what we're looking at so far. The other thing that I would want to include is a scale. Right, so if I click on that, draw the scale. Okay, I can just move this wherever I feel it might be necessary. Right, having this information, even though it is a little bit cluttered, is kind of what we're looking at. Maybe I would want to move this over a little bit, reduce the clutter. And then the next thing that we need to do is include a text box that will act as the title. So here is the button for a text box, and what I'm going to do is just sort of click on that. You'll notice there's QGIS right here. This label, which is what we just created, there's a window that pops up for this, and we see QGIS. And here I will just replace QGIS with what I consider to be an appropriate text for this. And so we'll look at this, and let me see. We'll call this activity dimension. Oh, how about activity LBCS dimension downtown Boone. All right, so pretty small, right? I completely understand that. God, these Mac mouses are just unbelievable. So anyways, of course, since it's a title, I want this to be really big. And so in this area here, in this label window, we have the ability to control the font. So I click on font. I can control the size. Right, so let's make this, for instance, 20 point bold. Hit OK. And this is what we have right here, something that looks much better. Okay. So there are other elements that you might want to put in. Let me see. There's nothing that I see, to be quite honest, that is a north arrow. There is what we have right here, adding an arrow, but this is not a north arrow when you get down to it. So we'll just leave it at this, and then let me see. So once we're finished with this, we've got this window, right? One of the things I can do is close this, and then if I wanted to go back and do my, let's do something else here. Where's the properties? Click on this. Instead of mapping activity, if I wanted to map something like structure, okay, I go ahead, I reclassify. Okay, I would need to go ahead and edit these colors based on the codes for structure. Right here, so 1, right, has this RGB. This is something that's really similar, but not too similar, or there are some dissimilarities right here for the structure categories. So you go ahead and you edit those, right? Edit the legends, click OK, and let's just go ahead and assume that I did everything that I was supposed to here. Mapping structure categorized. I hit OK. What we have is a different map. Okay, once this is there and I'm ready to actually create the map itself, I would go ahead and under Project, New Print Composer, I will call this Structure. Click OK, and I would include the map. Alright, and again, just sort of finesse things a little bit here by either moving or expanding the object or what the object contains right here. Let me see. I would want to take my legend, the new legend, place it right there. Okay, now the thing is, I'm presuming that you will be re-editing these colors. Provide the legend there, or the description of each of the categories for the structure. Right, put in a scale, put in a title, and then close that. Move on to the next one. One of the things that you'll notice is that if I go into my window here, then I've got the editing window that I'm looking at right now, but I see the composer window for activity, the composer window for structure. So it is all within this project. And I want to be sure that if I'm saving this, I want to save the project. And so when you save a project, it just doesn't save what is in your window right now, but it saves also the things that are attached to this project, such as all of the composer windows that you've created. So we want to be sure that we deal with that. We want to keep the integrity of the files when we save. What we want to do is save this as a project. And the project is a collection of all of the files and all of the windows that we have. Okay. I'm going to save this as an example. And I am going to place this, let's put it on my desktop, export output, got example, click on save. So now when I open example, everything that I see, the structure of this project right here is going to remain intact. I don't need to throw it all together. Alright, that's that. I am going to quit, and I will see you later.